under a democratic system? If yes, why do we still keep those colonially oppressive legal instruments intact? Is that not why we must dove our hearts for the people of Lagos and Edo states that have decriminalized defamation in their criminal code? And we must pause to give kudos to such people, like the then Lagos State Governor, who is now the President, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We must praise him. And we must praise his then Attorney General, former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo SAN, and those in Edo who ensured that the criminal defamation is out of the code in their states. Because they clearly understand that our aspiration as free Nigerians is to move away from the colonial vestiges where the colonialists considered us as less than human beings.
Distinguished colleagues, 10th day of December, today is the birthday of Senator Abdullahi Yahaya Abubakar, our esteemed leader. So with you, the following senators are also celebrating their birthdays. In fact, some started yesterday, where we did not sit. One of them is Distinguished Senator Godswill Akpabio, GCON. The President of the Senate. Another one is Distinguished Senator Jaribe A. Jaribe. And then we also have Distinguished Senator Akpoti Odwangan Adiza. On behalf of the Senate, I want to wish all the distinguished senators celebrating happy birthday, long life, prosperity, and many more years of service to our fatherland. Amen. This message is from the President of the Senate. Congratulations. Distinguished colleagues, we wish to announce and acknowledge the presence of staff and students of the Faculty of Law, American University of Nigeria, Yola, Adamawa State. They are in the gallery to observe Senate proceedings, and I want to wish them fruitful observations and journey mercies back to their destination. Welcome, you may be seated.
It before the Senate. Thank you.
Thank you. Proceed to lay the petition. Any other petition? In the absence of any other petition, this petition is referred to the Committee on Ethics, Code of Conduct, and Public Petitions to refer to the Senate in 2 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the first business of the day is the presentation of a House bill standing in my name on the African Union Convention for the Protection and Assistance of Internally Displaced Persons, Domestication and Enforcement Bill 2024, HB 1350. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, African Union Convention for the Protection and Assistance of Internally Displaced Persons, Domestication and Enforcement Bill 2024, HB 1350, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, African Union Convention for the Protection of and Assistance of Internally Displaced Persons, Domestication and Enforcement Bill 2024, HB 1350, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished senators, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of most distinguished Senator Etim Mbasi Anekan on the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 Alteration Bill 2024 SB 670. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 Alteration Bill, 2024, SB 670, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 Alteration Bill 2024 SB 670, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a Mr. President, standing in the name very of distinguished colleagues, Senator Dixon. The third business of the day is the presentation of the Presidential Library of Nigeria Establishment Bill 2024 SB 671. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Presidential Library of Nigeria Establishment Bill 2024, HB 671, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Presidential Library of Nigeria Establishment Bill 2024, SB 671, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of most distinguished Senator Nwoko Ned Munir on the Central Bank of Nigeria Act Amendment Bill 2024 SB 672. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Central Bank of Nigerian Act Amendment Bill 2024 HB 672, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Central Bank of Nigeria Act Amendment Bill 2024 SB 672, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished senators, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of most distinguished Senator David Jim Kuta on the Institute of Chartered Trustees of Nigeria Establishment Bill 2024 SB 672. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Institute of Chartered Trustees of Nigeria, ICTN Establishment Bill 2024, SB 672, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Institute of Chartered Trustees of Nigeria, ICTN Establishment Bill 2024, SB 673, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished senators, the sixth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of most distinguished Senator Sulaiman Umar Sadiq on the Special Economic Zones Establishment Bill 2024 SB 674. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Special Economic Zones Establishment Bill 2024, SB 674, first reading.
Distinguished colleagues, Special Economic Zones Establishment Bill 2024, SB 674, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished senators, the first order of the day is the second reading of the Federal University of Science and Technology, Koro Bayelsa State Establishment Bill 2024 SB 483. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read for the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, 23rd July 2024. Mr. President, you may wish to invite most distinguished Senator Kumbowell Benson Friday to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Distinguished Senator Kumbowell Friday.
Excellency, the President of the Senate, I wish to move or lead this debate on a bill for an act to establish the Federal University of Science and Technology, Kurukuruse, 2024 SB 483. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, it is an honor and privilege for me to present this lead debate on a bill for an act to establish the Federal University of Science and Technology, Kurukuruse, Bayelsa State. The bill was read for the first time on the floor of this hallowed chamber on Wednesday, the 24th of July, 2024. This bill is based on a genuine and manifest needs among the young people in my home state of Bayelsa, yearning for the opportunity to acquire education and training. They have sought the opportunity outside their immediate vicinity, but with only limited resources. The university proposed to be established by this bill will address that yearning. But the university will not serve only Bayelsa people. It is an institution of learning to which people from all parts of the country would come and learn. The proposed university is for the training of young men and women, as well as older people in science and technology, which is the driver of the modern economy. Through scientific experimentation and research, People are able to understand the means by which both capital and consumer goods can be produced to meet the material needs of the society. The more we produce, the more our material well-being improves. The university will also teach courses that are particularly relevant to its immediate catchment area, especially marine engineering, petroleum engineering, fisheries, environmental studies. Beyond those disciplines, this university will also produce graduates in diverse fields of engineering, medical science, and information technology, to name a few. The university will award both graduate and postgraduate degrees and contribute in developing the manpower required for building our nation's economy. Indeed, the modern economy thrives on the back of a skilled workforce, and nations are making determined efforts to build their manpower base and strengthen their competition advantage within the global economy. We need to build a manpower base too. The charts are shown that societies with low educational attainment pay the high cost of poor economic performance. Their economies develop at a slower pace than their peers. So if we want to develop, we must educate our young people, especially where they are eager to learn. Whereas there are about 5,900 degree awarding educational institutions in the US, there are only 274 universities in Nigeria, a country with a population of 220 million people compared to a population of 340 million in the US. Our universities are in proportion too few. Every year, millions of young Nigerians write the unified tertiary matriculation exams, but more than 65% of them do not find space within the tertiary education system. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, there were 1,653,127 applicants for admission in 2018, but only 549,763 of them gained admission. Similarly, statistics apply for other years. Where do we keep the 1,103,364 young people who sought for admission that year but did not get? What shall we do to help them? We need to establish more universities to train and equip them, to gain them a hope and a future. That is why the proposed Federal University of Science and Technology, Prokrose, should be established. Establishing this university will also draw young people out of the streets and get them engaged in activities that will brighten their future and the future of this society. It is a weapon against youth restiveness and other vices that may arise from idleness. We would be building up the Nigerian youth if we pass this bill and establish the Federal University of Science and Technology. Mr. President, I was asked by my constituents to demand this university from you and the entire Senate and Nigerians. And while I conclude, they asked me to sing this particular song. With your permission, I will sing the song. O maendana kosukula muiba, abonene kosukula muiba, uni motu beka mabene yo ibama, uni motu beka mabene yo inama, abo inogbo tu beka mabene yo inama. Your Excellency, sir, my president and my dear distinguished colleagues, it may interest you to understand that this song is only calling for all of
we have
you
a
to
doctor on
support this
standby.
bill. I do urge us to play our role in securing for our nation the technological advancement we need for economic prosperity. We can do that by supporting this bill. I so move. I will teach you the song, don't worry.
Distinguished Senator Dixon, you know, I've not been to Bayelsa State House of Assembly. So I don't know whether you express yourself in songs in Bayelsa State House of Assembly. So having been a governor there, you had the privilege of presenting budgets. And so you appeared before them. What used to happen there? Because I know that the distinguished Senator Friday Benson Kobowe was once a speaker in the Bayelsa State House of Assembly. I thought he was singing, but I don't know whether he was speaking in tongues.
Well, Mr. President and my dear colleagues, I think that was a comic dimension. But before I come to it, Henry Siraki Dixon, Bayelsa West. Mr. President and my dear colleagues, the bill that has been moved speaks to the need for additional investment in educational infrastructure in our country and in the great state of Bayelsa, and particularly where my colleague who moved this motion comes from. I know as a fact that even when we say our state is educationally disadvantaged, areas within the states also have, like every other state, also have peculiar challenges, some of which in our various tours of duty we try to attend to. And talking about singing, Mr. President, a senator who used to be a speaker in the assembly while I was governor is very good at singing. I know that. And now senators also know that. He used to join me regularly in our praise and worship sessions. And in fact, he himself has a praise and worship band that he leads. So I'm not surprised that even on this floor, he demonstrated his abilities, all to establish the need for this university. And part of what that song, which he didn't translate, says is that those who went to school are all abroad. They have gone abroad, they have gone to other places doing big, big things. While those who did not go to school are back home, suffering, and are hewers of wood. So the song that he sang, in a nutshell, speaks to the primacy of investing in education. And back to this bill, my dear colleagues, when I was very happy when my colleague now walked up to me to tell me that this motion was coming up this morning. And I sat to say a thing or two in support. And I'm pleading, pleading with all colleagues to support this bill, to enable it go through the normal legislative process. I know that members will be asking questions about presence of institutions. The state, yes, we do have a federal university established by the former president, for which we are very grateful. And that university is already making a lot of impact, which we are very grateful. But because of the educational deficits, I myself, as governor, established 2 universities, University of Africa and the Bayelsa Medical University, because we needed to channel all our youths, take them out from all the creeks, and then get them to pursue education. After building secondary schools across, and primary schools also, and then instituted the loans board, Special Education Loans Board, and the Education Development Trust Fund, free. So we started all that revolution. So now you have a large body of young people who now want to go to school. You see, that's why when the bill came for student loan bill came for the president, I was at the forefront supporting it because I already have seen the effect. That's why there's some level of stability. Young people have to be channeled towards education. And so I support this bill, and I'm requesting all colleagues to support this bill, let it go through the normal system, hoping that it will see the light of day. Thank you, Mr. President, for your patience and for recognizing me to say a thing or two. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, we pass bills and then we don't have the opportunity to even cite where some of these institutions will be located. In view of the fact that Bayelsa is over 80% water and swampy, is there already an existing infrastructure where this university will be sited, or is it going to be Sandfield location, which will cost over 10 times the cost of a normal dry land? I just want to know, because if that is the case, it means that we may end up making a law that will not be implemented. And in view of the number of universities you cited, 2, and I'm also aware of the federal government's Niger Delta University, right? Niger Delta
University, Mr. President, is a state-owned university.
Oh,
it was established by our first civilian governor, Chief DSP Alamesia.
And you also established
which is
2.
doing well, yes.
You also established 2 more.
Yes, one is a specialized university, medical university.
Okay.
Yes, and the other is a general university.
And so you have 3 universities owned by the state.
Yes, we do have 3 universities owned by the state.
Is there any federal university there?
There, as I said, for candor, as I said, the former president, President Jonathan, took a policy decision to establish federal universities in states that didn't have one. And so we have the Federal University of Troke, which is also doing very well. And as governor, I even approved a subvention for it. All federal institutions in the state approved subvention for them, which they are still collecting up till now. But the challenge is that the southern Niger, where my colleague comes from, is actually the local government, the largest in terms of land mass and also water bodies. That takes you to the Atlantic Ocean also. And you are right, the entire state is below sea level. You are right. But apart from that, like I tried to explain some days ago, the state is also very large, larger than over 10 states in Nigeria, which people don't sometimes pay attention to. But the southern Niger local government, where he comes from, my colleague comes from, it will take you 4 or 5 days to go round. 4 or 5 days to go round. And the educational need is so high. Even when I built boarding schools and made it even free for people to attend, free, 3 times fed, uniform, everything. I had to build 2 in that local government. and one close to where this university is proposed to be sited. So back to your question, are there public institutions where if a university is sited, they can take off from? Yes. But as the Senate knows, and you know better, if this bill is passed, or when it is passed, it will take some interface with the state authorities, which, you know, I'm not going again, so I can't speak as to which public facility should be allocated. But for availability of facilities, yes, there are. If the bill is passed, kind enough to pass it, and the president is kind enough to assent to it, I can assure you and this chamber that there are public institutions there owned by the state that can be made available for it to take off from. Thank you.
The Nigerians move from here sometimes to go to as far as Cambridge, sometimes Harvard, for the purpose of education when it comes to tertiary education. So no matter how large central Ijaw is, it's not that it's the size of the local government that determines university, because you can finish in that local government and then you move to the next university. My worry is Bayelsa with the population. If university were to be state by state, can Bayelsa accommodate 5 universities with a population? And based on what they are saying, that it will take 2 days to go around the area because of the water level, the swampy nature of the roads and all that. The infrastructural deficit. Well, will it be necessary to have a university there with 4 other existing universities, 3 of which are state-owned, 1 is federal, and then he's now proposing this second one? Because immediately he started the song, I knew there was Kelek, but it's not, the song is okay. We can allow it to go for a public hearing, and thereafter we look at the nitty-gritty, because we are just supposed to look at the general principles here. We are not supposed to look at the in-depth location and all those things. So, distinguished colleagues, is it the view of the Senate that this be allowed to go for second reading? Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Yes, Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, I bill for an act to establish the Federal University of Science and Technology, Korosal, Bayelsa State, for teaching, instructions, and research in science and technology, for fostering technological innovations, for administration of the university, and for related matters 2023 SB 486. Second reading.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of Federal University of Science and Technology, Korosei, Bayelsa State, for teaching, instructions, and research in science and technology, for fostering technological innovations, for administration of the university, and for related matters 2024. SB 483. Second reading taken. This bill is now referred to the Committee on Tertiary Institutions to revert to the Senate in 4 weeks. Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Telephone. Leader of the Senate. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, the second order of the day is second reading of raw materials, processing and local production protection bill 2024 SB 606. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read for the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, 15 October 2024. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Nweboyin Oyeka Peter to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time.
Distinguished Senator Nweboyin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remain Senator Peter Onyekachi Nweboyin, representing the good people of Ebonyi North Senatorial Zone of Ebonyi State. Mr. President, I rise to move for the leave of this chamber for me to lead the debate on the Raw Material Act of 2022 Amendment Bill. I so move, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead the debate on this very important bill, which is the Raw Material Processing and Local Production Protection Bill 2024. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, you may recall that the bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Tuesday, the 15th day of October 2024. Distinguished colleagues, as Nigeria seeks sustainable economic growth, the introduction of the Raw Material Processing and Local Production Protection Bill promises to be a transformative initiative. This legislation aims to boost local manufacturing, enhance job creation, and reduce overdependency on importation, and mandating, I repeat, and mandating that no raw material be exported outside Nigeria without undergoing at least 30% processing domestically. This bill, if enacted into law, will regulate importation of raw materials readily available for local production. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, promoting local processing to a minimum of 30% or more will add value to our economy, particularly to our Naira, and will also encourage innovation within our local industries, as this initiative will lead to a significant increase in our local industries. Distinguished colleagues, Mr. President, this bill, if enacted into law, will shield Nigerian manufacturers from foreign competition by regulating the importation of raw materials that can be produced locally. Distinguished colleagues, in all, this bill will create more favorable environment for domestic companies to thrive and will foster national pride and economic independence like other developed countries of the world like China, United States, and what have you. Thank you, Mr. President, for this opportunity.
The Deputy Senate President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me first of all commend the sponsor of this bill, Senator Nweboyin, for his thoughts and innovation towards rebounding and re-energizing our economy. This is a wonderful initiative, a very, very good initiative, worthy of commendation. Mr. President, day in, day out, raw materials are exported out of this country to develop other economies, whereas we have the capacity, the human capital, the technical resources to a kind of act on these raw materials, to process these raw materials. And by not doing so, We are undermining our economy while allowing for the promotion of other economies. But once this bill is passed, it will now be mandatory that these raw materials must be processed here, at least 30%. This will energize the economy by providing jobs, by promoting our real sector. Our real sector will be energized, to be more up and running. It's very straightforward. Very, very, very straightforward. Several industries will emerge because it will now be mandatory that you don't engage this lazy attitude of taking raw materials outside the shores of this country. That this raw material must be processed here. Value addition should take place. And once you do that, more factories will be opened, more jobs will be created, more revenue will accrue to the government, people will be engaged, the economy will become buoyant. Very short, very straightforward, Mr. President. I therefore urge my colleagues to support this bill because it will do good to our economy. It will help our economy. It will re-energize our economy. Our economy will become more diversified. Mr. President, please, I urge my colleagues please to support this bill. I so submit.
The whip of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, my name is Mohamed Tair Munguno. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. First and foremost, I want to wholly adopt all the submissions made by the Deputy Senate President in support of the bill as mine, and further add that this bill is novel, germane, and very, very relevant, having regard to our present economic situation and the drive as encapsulated in the Renewed Hope agenda to attain a $1 trillion economy. If we are going to achieve that lofty objective of attaining a $1 trillion economy, then there is need for us to strengthen our exports by value addition with a view to earning the much needed dollars for the purpose of leapfrogging our drive towards the attainment of that goal. In addition to that, Mr. President, distinguished senators, if this bill eventually sees the light of the day, the 30% value addition that this bill proposes will go a long way on creating employment for our teeming unemployed youth, with all the attendant advantage of reducing the problem of insecurity that has been brought as a result of youth unemployment. So this bill is novel and it's in tandem with our economic objectives, and I urge my colleagues to support the second reading of this. Thank you.
Senator Shuru.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this bill on raw material is a great thing we need at this particular time. When I was reading through the bill, I observed the 30% value addition in it. And I asked the promoter of the bill, why 30%? In his own wisdom, he told me that the 30% is just the beginning of a process, that it is easier for us to achieve a 30% value addition now And subsequently, he's with the opinion that in future, 30% will be raised to 40 to 50 until we are able to achieve reach productivity, converting our raw material into usable products. And the value of this is so obvious. We are going to provide more employment for our people. We are going to generate more effects. A lot of chains will be achieved, productive chain we have achieved through this process. So I stand to support the bill in totality and to urge our colleague to quickly move so that we can do a second reading and quickly pass the bill. Thank you, Mr. President, for giving us this opportunity.
Is there anybody who is opposed to this bill? Anybody opposed to it? Anybody opposed to it? Okay, distinguished Senator Olare.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. My name is Kamaluddin Olalere Oyewumi. I represent the good people of also West Central District. Central District that's situated in the forest, where many good products are produced, used locally, and exported. Sir, as good as this bill look, I think there's need for caution because of nature of some products. For instance, from the past 20, 30 years, Nigeria produced oil. Because there's no local refinery, everything is being exported. But now that we have local refinery, they are selling to local industries. If you assume that all the products do not be exported raw, what of if you don't have companies that are going to consume them locally? Especially things like cocoa, which are produced in large quantities in my own Central District. As we speak, less than 10% of them can be consumed locally because there's no company that's going to consume them. If you cannot be taken with blanket approval, it may happen to some product when we have industry that will consume them, but those that are not yet established, this thing has to be gradual until we have industry that will consume them locally. If not, we are going to surcharge the farmers that have sunk a lot of money into producing these commodities. If you just say, from now, they should not export their product. That is just my concern, Mr. President. Thank you.
Yes. Distinguished Senator Abbas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I'm Senator Aminu Abbas from Adamawa Central. Mr. President, I want to make an explanation to the fear of my distinguished colleague. In the bill, Mr. President, there's provision of moratorium for other industries to be set up in Nigeria. You see, all over the world, I'll give you an instance in Uganda, when President Museveni gave directive last 2 years that all those that take solid mineral from their country must establish industry. And he gave them a moratorium period to establish industry and process it in the country for them to reduce pressure on their forex as well as generate employment. So I think there is no need for fear because there's provision for that in the bill for a moratorium period for other industries to be set up in the country. And the agency is ready to follow suit, Mr. President. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, those in support of the bill going for a second reading say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of raw materials processing and local production protection and for related matters, 2024 SB 606, second reading.
Distinguished colleagues, A bill for an act to provide for the establishment of raw materials, processing and local production protection, and for related matters 2024. Second reading taken. And this bill is now referred to the Committee on Science and Technology to be brought back to the Senate in 6 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, the order of the day is presentation and consideration of report of Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Third Fund of Federal University of Mining and Geosciences, JOS, Bill 2024 SB 12. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was referred to the committee on Thursday, 27 July 2023. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Mohammed Danduze Montari, Chairman of Committee, to move the motion for presentation and consideration of the report.
Senator Mohammed Danduze.
Thank you, Mr. President. My respected colleagues, I remain Danduze Montari Mohammed, representing Katsina South, that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Third Fund on the Federal University of Mining and Geoscience, JOS, Bill 2024 SB 12. I so move.
Yes. Distinguished Senator Yero. Distinguished Senator Binos Yero.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Binos Yaro, Adama South. I rise to second the motion that the bill delayed and considered. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the bill has been, motion has been moved and seconded. Those in support of the motion that this bill be now referred to the Committee of the Whole for consideration, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. We may now lay the bill. Distinguished Senator Danduze, you may wish to summarize the report.
Thank you, Mr. President. My respected colleagues, the core objective of the bill for an act to repeal the Nigerian Institute of Mining and Geoscience 2018 and establish the Federal University of Mining and Geoscience by providing institutional requirement for running a world-class Federal University of Mining and Geoscience with a view to provide the educational infrastructure needed while balancing access to education and technology. The committee legislative summary. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, at this juncture, I wish to inform you that the inference drawn by the committee at the end of this exercise is informed by the fact that this assignment has received overwhelming support of the stakeholders. Similarly, the committee has critically examined the provision of the bill for an act to repeal the Nigerian Institute of Mining and Geoscience Act 2018 and establish the Federal University of Mining and Geoscience, JOS, Plateau State, and for related matter, Bill 2024 SB 12. Recommendation. The Senate Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Third Fund, to which this bill was referred, have been carefully considered. Same hereby recommend as follows. that the Senate do receive and pass the bill for an act to repeal the Nigerian Institute of Mining and Geoscience Act 2018 and establish the Federal University of Mining and Geoscience, JOS, to make comprehensive provision for its due management and administration for related matters 2024 as recommended. In conclusion, Mr. President, my respected colleagues, I wish to use this opportunity to thank you, Mr. President of the Senate and distinguished colleagues, for opportunity to serve in the capacity and to humbly request the Senate to pass this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished Senator Sia. Distinguished Senator Okezia, right?
Sir, thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, I stand in support of the motion that this bill receive the support and approval of the Senate. Thank you very much.
Any further contribution? None. For the bill. Yes, this is the plan.
President of the Senate, distinguished colleagues, I rise again to support what the chairman of TEDFON has presented about the bill, the passage of the repeal of the bill or the act establishing the Institute of Mine and Geosciences, JOS, and to promote it to become a federal university of mining and geosciences. Mr. President and my colleagues, just as said by the chairman of TEDFON and tertiary institutions, the public hearing of this bill was overwhelming, where we have even the governor of Plateau, the Bongom of Jos, and 6 first-class traditional rulers and various stakeholders in the mining institute came. I feel that this bill is another opportunity for us to have a university of mines where Nigerians and Nigeria in its totality is blessed with minerals. And if God has blessed us with mineral resources, it becomes our duty to deepen our knowledge in the area of where we are gifted, so that the exploration, exploitation, and mining of minerals will be done by Nigerians themselves. This is a special and technical university, and therefore I feel that this is a moment for us to have the University of Mining and Mineral Sciences. We have the University of Agriculture because we are gifted in agriculture. We have the University of Marine because we are given in waterways. We have the University of Petroleum because of the hydrocarbons we are gifted. But Nigeria do not have the University of Mine. I think this is a moment for us to have a University of Mine. And this university will be on where it will be on where the highest institution of mining is placed, where the Nigerian Institute of Mining has 3 campuses and a hostel, and the Director General is a professor, and they are running courses in postgraduate science, postgraduate courses in mining and mineral sciences. I believe that it will not cost us much if this is passed into law, and the president, in his own magnanimity, signs it into law. We will have the first University of Mining and Technology. Thank you for the opportunity to contribute.
Anybody opposed to this report? None. Those in support, the leader of the Senate, you may wish to move that we're going to committee of the whole for clause by clause consideration.
Mr. President, I stand to move a motion that was resolved into committee of whole to consider the report. I so move.
The minority leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I support the motion moved by the leader of the Senate that the Senate resolves into the committee of the whole to consider the report. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that this August Assembly do revert into committee of the whole to undertake clause by clause consideration of this report. Those in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, report of the Senate Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Third Fund on a bill for an act to repeal the Nigerian Institute of Mining and Geosciences Act 2018 and establish the Federal University of Science and Geosciences, JOS, and for related matters 2024. It's not, the song is okay. We can allow it to go for public
Those
hearing.
in support of the long title on
And
page 1
thereafter
say
we'll look at
aye.
the nitty-gritty. Because we are not
Those
supposed
against
to,
say
we are
nay.
just supposed to look at the general principles here.
Those in support of the
We are
long
not supposed
title
to
on
look at
page 1 say aye.
the in-depth.
Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Page 2. 4, 3, 4.
So, distinguished colleagues, is it the view of the Senate that this
5.
be allowed to
Those
go
in
for
support
second
of 2
reading?
to 5 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. 6, 7,
Thank you,
8,
Mr. President.
9, and 10. Those in support of 6 to 10 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. (11 to 15). Those in support of 11 to 15 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 16.
towards
17,
rebounding and re-energizing our economy. This is a wonderful initiative.
18, 19,
senatorial zone of Ebonyi State.
20.
Read for the first time
Those in support of
in this
classes
chamber
16
on
to
Tuesday,
20 say aye.
15 October
Those against say
2024.
nay.
Mr.
The
President,
ayes have it.
you may wish to invite Senator
Clause 21,
Oyeka Peter to move the
22,
motion for the
23,
bill to be read. Mr.
24, 25. Those in support of clauses 21 to 25 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Distinguished Senator Nweboyi.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Clause 26, 27.
Distinguished Senator Nweboyi.
Those in support of 26 and 27 say aye. The, those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Senator Nweboyi.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remain Senator Peter Onyekachi Nwebonyi, representing the good people of Ebonyi senatorial zone of Ebonyi State. Mr. President, I rise to move for the leave of this chamber for me to lead the debate on the raw material Act of 2022 Amendment Bill. I so move, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead the debate on this very important bill, which is the Raw Material Processing and Local Production Protection Bill 2024. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, you may recall that the bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Tuesday, the 15th day of October 2024. Distinguished colleagues, as Nigeria seeks sustainable economic growth, the introduction of the Raw Material Processing and Local Production Protection Bill promises to be towards rebounding and re-energizing our economy.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, my name is Mohamed Tair Munguno. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. First and foremost, I want to wholly adopt all the submissions made by the Deputy Senate President in support of the bill as mine, and further add that this bill is novel, germane, and very, very relevant, having regard to our present economic situation and the drive unemployment. So this bill is novel and it's in tandem with our economic objectives, and I urge my colleagues to support the second.
And I
Mr. President, I want to make an explanation to the fear of my distinguished colleague.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, our bill for an act to provide for the establishment of raw materials processing and local production protection and for related matters, 2024 SB
Interpretation clause. Clause 28. Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The citation. The bill will be cited as the Federal University of Mining and Geosciences Just Establishment Bill 2024. Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The schedules. Schedule 1. The second schedule. The second schedule. The second schedule. Schedules 1 and 2. Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The second schedule. Schedules 1 and 2. Schedules 1 to 3. Pages 22 to 27. Those in support say aye. 1 and 2. Schedules those against say 3. Pages 22 to 27. Those in support say aye. The explanatory memorandum.
establishment of raw materials
Leader of the
processing
Senate.
For an act to provide for the establishment.
Mr. President, sitting as chair. Mr. President, sitting as chair, very distinguished colleagues, I rise to move
of raw materials processing and local production provide for the establishment of
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, sitting as chair,
of raw materials processing for an act to provide for the establishment of raw materials processing.
Those in support that the Senate refers to plenary for the chair to report progress say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So we revert to plenary to report
protection. And for related matters, 2024 SB 606 second reading.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of raw materials, processing and local production protection. The Senate in the Committee of the Whole 2024 considered the report of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions. This bill is now and third fund on the Federal University of Mining. A bill for an act to provide for the establishment of raw materials, processing and local production protection. Long title matters 2024. Second reading. Clauses 1 to 27 as recommended is now referred to the Committee. Interpretation clause 28 as recommended. To be brought back to the Senate in 6 weeks. Short title 29 as recommended. Schedules 1 to 3 as recommended. Of the Senate. Explanatory memorandum as recommended.
Mr. President,
is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole?
Presentation and consideration of report of Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Third Fund of Federal.
And this bill is now referred to the Committee on Science and Technology to be brought back to the Senate in 6 weeks. Leader of the Senate. You may wish to move the motion.
Yes, sir.
For the bill to be read for the third time.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, I rise to
And for
move that
related
the bill be now
matters,
read for the third time.
2024
So moved.
SB 606, second reading.
Distinguished
Mr.
colleagues,
President,
a bill
distinguished
for an
colleagues,
act to provide for the establishment of raw
I second the
materials,
motion moved by the
processing
leader
and local
that this bill be read
production protection. And for
So,
related
distinguished
matters, 2024. The motion has been moved and seconded that this taken. bill be now read the third time. This bill is now Those referred in to the support of the Committee motion say on aye. Science and Technology. Those against say to be nay. brought back to the Senate The ayes in 6 have weeks. it. Clerk of the Senate. To Senator Nweboyi.
Thank you,
Mr. President, distinguished
This bill is now referred to
senators,
the Committee on Science and
I
Technology.
bill for an act
brought
to
back to the
repeal the
Senate in 6
Nigerian Institute of Mining and
Distinguished colleagues,
Geosciences
A bill
Act
for an act to
2018
provide for the establishment of
and
raw materials,
establish the Federal
processing and
University of
local
Mining and Geosciences,
production
JOS,
protection.
and for
And for
other
related
related matters
2024.
2024
Second reading.
SB 12,
And this bill is now
third
referred to the
reading.
Committee on Science and Technology to be brought back to the Senate in 6 Distinguished weeks. colleagues, a bill for an act to repeal the Nigerian Institute of Mining and Geosciences Act 2018 and establish the Federal University of Mining and Geosciences, JOS, and for related matters 2024, third reading taken. Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to repeal the Nigerian Institute of Mining and Geosciences Act 2018 and to establish the Federal University of Mining and Geosciences, JOS, and for related matters 2024, third reading taken and passed. Let me thank my colleagues for their contributions and also congratulate the good people applied to the state for this additional university that is specifically targeted at the mining sector. And congratulate all Nigerians that yes, indeed, we will now have value addition and then we will now focus more on mining as a major revenue source for the country. I think this is a step in the right direction. So I congratulate all those who have made contributions to this bill and congratulate also the chairman and members of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TED Fund for a wonderful job done. So distinguished Senator Dandu say, the Senate is happy with your work and what you are doing to promote education in the country. And I hope that when this is assented into Act of Parliament, it will act to knowledge and will also enable people from the global community to come into Nigeria to add value to the education, not just in Nigeria, but in Africa as a whole. I thank you all. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished senators, the fourth order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petition in respect of a petition from engineer Aniekan Padi Ukwe against the Nigerian Railway Corporation over the wrongful termination of his appointment. Mr. President, you may wish to invite most distinguished Senator Imasuen Neda Bernard to move the motion for the Senate to consider the report of the committee.
Senator Imasuen.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Neda Imasuen, representing Edo South Senatorial District. My motion Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Ethics, Code of Conduct and Public Petitions in respect of a petition from Engineer Aneken Padi Ukbe against the Nigerian Railway Corporation, NRC, over the wrongful termination of his appointment. Mr. President, with your permission, may I submit the report?
Yes, proceed. Yes. Can you summarize the report?
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the Senate may recall that on Thursday, 20th July 2023, distinguished Senator Ekong Samson, Akwa Ibom South, rose on Order 40 standing orders of the Senate 2023 as amended and drew the attention of the Senate to a petition from one of his constituents, Engineer Aneken Padi Ukbe, upon the Nigerian Railway Corporation for allegedly terminating his appointment wrongfully from the services of the corporation in 2023, where he urged the Senate to look into the matter and direct the Nigerian Railway Corporation, NRC, to reinstate him and pay all his outstanding salaries and allowances. Accordingly, Mr. President, the case was referred to our committee, and our committee sat and reviewed the petition of both parties, reports orally as well as documentary. The kernel of the issue, Mr. President, still colleagues, is that on the 19th of September 2022, Mr. Aneken reported for duty and then found out that the railway tracks have been vandalized by criminals at kilometer 8112 Kamaru Railway Station, Zonkwa section of the North Central District. Mr. Engineer Aneken reported this matter verbally to his immediate supervisor, but he didn't do so until 2 weeks later. He also reported the matter to the Nigerian police. Immediately he heard of it, and the police swung into action, and the two individuals who perpetrated this act were apprehended and they were tried. The Nigerian Railway Corporation, in its own wisdom, thought that Mr. Aneken didn't report the matter on time, and so they decided to dismiss him. We went through the whole matter, both orally and documentarily, and also realized or found out that Engineer Aneken had never had any infraction with Nigerian Railway Corporation. We also found out that he was not in any way associated with this criminal act, and that he took every step possible to make sure that those who perpetrated the act were apprehended and were duly prosecuted. And so we didn't find any need for Nigerian Railway Corporation to, on the basis of this, dismiss him for his services that he has rendered to Nigerian Railway Corporation. Therefore, in the wisdom of the committee, we resolve that the Nigerian Railway Corporation should reinstate Engineer Naken and pay back his salaries. So it's our recommendation that the Senate do direct the Nigerian Railway Corporation to reinstate Naken Paddy Ukbe to the services of Railway Corporation and pay all his entitlements because he was not involved in the vandalization of the railway tracks. That the Senate to direct the Senate Committee on Legislative Compliance to ensure that the Nigerian Railway Corporation complied with the resolutions of the Senate on this matter. Mr. President, most distinguished colleagues, respected colleagues, on behalf of the Senate Committee on Ethics, Code of Conduct, and Public Petition, I appreciate the Senate President and my distinguished colleagues for the opportunity to serve the Nigerian people in this capacity. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Is there anybody who wishes to add something? Senator Anthony Ani, want to be a member of this committee? Say something.
Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Professor Anthony Ani. I represent Ebonyi South. Mr. President, the membership of this committee is composed of people of integrity, people of character, people who are very trustworthy. They have done a thorough job. They took their time. They were committed during the sittings, and they read every item that needed to be found out. I stand to support all the contents of their report, and I wish the Senate adopts their report. So I second. Thank you, Mr. President.
So, distinguished colleagues, let us look at the recommendations. Recommendation 1, that the Senate do direct the Nigerian Railway Corporation to reinstate Engineer Naken Paddy Ukbe to the services of the Nigerian Railway Corporation and to pay all his entitlements because no evidence points to the fact that he was involved in the vandalization of the railway tracks. Those in support of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 2, that the Senate do direct the Senate Committee on Legislative Compliance to ensure that the Nigerian Railway Corporation complies with the resolutions of the Senate on this matter. Those in support of the resolution 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Let me thank the Senate Committee on Code of Conduct, and, Public Ethics and Public Petitions for a wonderful job done, and do pray that the Nigerian Railway Corporation will see the need to do justice to this Nigeria. Here, we are totally impartial. We look at the facts the way they are. Where there is need for us to intervene, we intervene. So they should immediately recall this staff and pay compensation because allegation of vandalization of tracts is a criminal matter. He was not convicted, and there is no evidence that points to the fact that he was part of it. And therefore, that dismissal was not in order. He paid all his entitlements. We so direct. Leader of the Senate. I want to please approach the chair. Leader of the Senate. 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 Leader of the Leader of the Senate. Yes.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I rise to move that in view of other legislative activities scheduled for distinguished colleagues in their various committees this afternoon, I will step down the rest of the items on the order paper to the next legislative day to enable us now adjourn the sitting of this Senate till Wednesday, the 11th day of December 2024 at 11 a.m. Mr. President, I so move.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I second the motion that we step down other matters on the order paper for today to enable members attend to very critical national issues at other levels. I so second.
Students, colleagues, a motion has been moved and seconded that we step down other items on the order paper to enable us attend to other legislative functions for the day, and then thereafter adjourn. Those in support of the two motions say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
La la la.